cast in the name of God. Ye not guilty. Super Audio Robo Podcast Z. It's showtime! That's right, I'm Ark, that's Neff, and this is the show where we recommend you the finest mecha content for your cultural and artistic development. And this is a real good one today.
Hey Ark, do you like Batman? Do you like noir? Do you like giant robots? Do you like James Bond? What if we had an anime that had all those things?
Sign me the fuck up!
That's right, today is Big O time, baby.
I would say, because I've not spent a lot of time, I realize, putting together a proper, top 10 for like personal favorite mecha, like anime, but if I had to guess, this one would definitely be worthy of like a top 10 placement.
Damn.
At least for the first season, yeah, guaranteed.
First season, definitely. It would probably be in my own, somewhere in the top 10 as well, I think.
This is a very special one that deserves, I think, a lot more recognition out. There are some days where it feels like you feel like more people know about the Big O than they probably do, just because I think it's like the circles you end up in online, very easily to gravitate to an anime that is, I'd say, in the same company of stuff like Cowboy Bebop, in which it is an anime that is appealing to those who don't like anime.
Yeah, I think so. It's got a very distinct style to it that's very unusual for most anime.
Though I guess we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves in some regards. So we gotta keep the order of things here on this podcast.
Yeah, let's reel it back. Let's talk about the synopsis.
40 years ago, the event resulted in humanity's collective loss of memory and history. The only people left are living in the metropolis of Paradigm City, leading otherwise uneventful lives. Within this city is one particular man with a unique set of talents, Roger Smith, a negotiator who prides himself on solving people's problems and protecting the peace of the city. When lost memories emerge to disrupt the people's lives, he fights with the powerful Megaduce called Big O. With this robot and his close allies, he fends off threats to the city while also uncovering the mysteries of its past.
Yep, there's a lot of mystery in this show, as you probably could tell from that.
Mystery that, I think when you get through all of it, the creators clearly thought about it and were not just fucking winging it as they went along.
Yeah, they definitely, there's this feeling that, oh yeah, no, we had a plan.
We had a plan, but we're not going to tell you everything about it, because fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. We're not going to tell you shit. You know what? Fair enough, I guess.
I'm here for the vibes anyway.
Yeah.
It's all good. So we can talk about the prehistory next, because there's actually quite a bit, thanks to, again, kind of getting to what I talked about, where it feels like that there's more recognition for the Big O than you might think, because I feel it's the work of very passionate individuals who have spent the last 2.5 decades on the internet making sure that as much information about this show is recorded for posterity. Because I had a lot to pull from compared to other episodes on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the simple thing to start with is that, the Big O is a 1999 super robot anime produced by Studio Sunrise and directed by Kazuyoshi Katayama. Yeah, this is tail end in the 90s after, all manner of high quality mecha anime productions from the studio behind Gundam. And, and this is with both, actual Gundam productions as well as original works as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Big O was an anime that came from just a gargantuan amount of influences both in and outside of its own genre, to put it simply. Neff was not kidding with with all the stuff that she just rattled off near the beginning of this episode, and what if we put it all in a blender? Mm-hmm. That absolutely applies. There is a very clear film noir vibe throughout this entire anime. Even the presentation is not one-to-one, but it is definitely Art Deco inspired, and actually pulls from something that Studio Sunrise had previously worked on specifically as a subcontractor.
Yeah.
And that was Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, this was during the days when they would subcontract animation work to Japan, and you'd get Toei and these other studios working on shows, and like I believe like they got Studio TMS as well for the Batman TS. But yeah, and you could definitely see a lot of that influence here.
Basically a way of saying that, like, guess what? All those cartoons you grew up with, like those like so-called like products of like Western animation, surprise, they still had Japan involved.
Yeah,
it was all anime. It always has been.
It's always been anime.
I say, as I, in the astronaut outfit, like, am pointing a gun directly at the back of your head. It's all anime, kid.
Always has been.
So yes, because of Sunrise being one of the studios that got to work, like, do some of the grunt work on Batman TAS, like, by their own admission, getting to work on that project rubbed off obviously on like the creative staff for this show, that they were like, they wanted to like channel some of that energy, that sort of like dark noirish atmosphere, and even like pull inspiration from like certain characters. Like our protagonist especially channels a lot of Bruce Wayne in the way that he carries himself. We'll definitely have more to explain about him in our primary character section, but it is like, it would be no surprise if you looked at Roger Smith from a glance and were like, oh, this is like, you're trying to make your own anime Batman.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a bit.
Yeah. But there is obviously still some mecha influence itself that factored into like the formation of Big O. Due to like what the design of the Big O is supposed to evoke, it is very clearly inspired by the really old classic giant robots like pre-Mazinger. This is stuff along the lines of like Mitsuteru Yokoyama's giant Robo. In fact, like during this decade, there was like an OVA that was made as like a sort of revival or send up to Giant Robo itself, famously called Giant Robo: The Animation, or The Day the Earth Stood Still. Produced during the same decade, pretty much throughout the entire decade, because it had a very long production, but it also had like not only like this of focus on showing like these really big, slow, bulky robots, but also with like a very kind of like old style aesthetic to the world that was like kind of adjacent to like the sort of film noir stuff that Big O was pulling from. And even the director Kazuyoshi Katayama, I believe, like for a time, like early on in Giant Robo's production, did work on it, like I think for animation specifically. So yeah, there's at least like someone like on the creative team at Sunrise, like within Hajime Yatate, they got to work on this greatest of all time OVA that we may or may not be talking about in a couple episodes, but you could probably guess. Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was a niche mecha related inspiration that like I did not realize was the thing, and it feels like so fucking like tangential in a weird way. Yeah. But I mean, it's from the director's mouth, so I'll acknowledge it. What he was actually, I think, most inspired by, as far as like the approach to Big O, making it this kind of like giant robot like series that had a lot of like aspects paying homage to like more classic Showa era works, was a 1970s tokusatsu show called Super Robot Red Baron. I could say up front, even just like looking at images and stuff like between the two, I think it's totally understandable that like Big O itself has a lot more unique stuff going on that is like not explicitly try to be like, oh, we are recreating like the same stuff that Red Baron could do back in the 70s. It's like the reason the show is cited as an example of like an inspiration is because it's just a show that Katayama grew up watching and basically had. It's one of those things where it is like everyone I think has had this as a kid, where it is like there is just something you become like so like enraptured with and kind of obsessed with, even though it is not like at the forefront of whatever like cultural zeitgeist that was like happening alongside it at the time. But it sticks with you in a way where like your brain just starts like turning and imagining things of like, oh, but what if this were like to come back and like, or what if I were to go back and like change something about it to like make it even better, give it more of a budget so it could like do more things or something like that. Yeah, that's basically the reason it's cited as an inspiration, because Katayama basically views the Big O as like his way of doing a Red Baron type show, but like on his own terms, and like with a whole lot of like crazy extra different influences that have nothing to do with Red Baron.
That's crazy, but also it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure if you ask a lot of creators what their like inspiration is, they'd probably mention a show from their childhood like this and be like, "Yeah, I wanted to make something that was like that again, but better or something."
Yeah, they'll answer with something that will just like leave everyone initially perplexed because
Yeah.
it's not like, like the popular thing from the era.
Yeah, it's like, wait, what? That? Okay. I never even heard of that show before.
Which, to be fair, total respect.
Yeah.
I dig that mentality for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And like to even go further with, I guess, like some of the, I guess, like the level of like thought that kind of went into like applying like all of like their influences to this, because like obviously you look at like the aesthetic, you see a lot of like Batman, the animated series in its DNA, to the point where you could even see characters that have like some amount of like, parallels to like actual Batman characters. But like when it comes to the mecha, on top of the fact that, like the director's primary inspiration was an obscure 70s tokusatsu show, he even thought about like the design and functionality of the Megaduce and like all the robots in this show, to the point where they were like, if we were to have merchandise made of it, like if this were to ever gotten toys, we got to make sure that it has like cool mechanical features to it for its weapons or whatever that could make it easy to sell. And like the show obviously did not gain any traction to warrant such merchandising.
Yeah.
But just like with the fact that they were inspired by an unknown show like Red Baron of all things, I appreciate the thought behind it. I would do the same.
Yeah. Well, at least they were thinking about it. Yeah, they didn't have to, but they wanted to, which I respect.
And all these points I decided to highlight, this just like, I feel, scratches the surface on a lot of the things you could look up about the Big O, and like the because like there's all kinds of stuff, like if any deeper as far as like other like inspirations, we'd probably be getting into like more classical like sci-fi literature and concepts that would probably like be like most seen in some very spoiler specific stuff that we cannot talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is basically like the tip of the iceberg, as I'll call it. Eventually, this would obviously have to be an anime that would air at some point, so it would air on Japanese TV. It was only going to air for 13 episodes anyway.
Yeah.
Only half of what the of what the studio originally planned for. This was going to be a 26 episode series, like most everything else was. That wasn't, designed to capitalize on like a year-long schedule or something.
Yeah.
It really only got like cut in half the way that it did because it had pretty low viewership at the time, despite its high quality.
Yeah. Which is a shame. That's definitely the story I've heard for a long while as well.
But surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, based on, what we've described the show as in terms of its aesthetic and appeal, in 2001, a slightly edited version, because of course it had to be the like given like the location and circumstances, would air on Cartoon Network's Toonami block, riding the wave of the US anime boom, and saw relatively more popularity with international audiences for literally everything we just described about this.
Yeah, I think this is where it really started to like this is where it got to be more popular, which, you know what, it makes sense. I guess it's like the perfect place, perfect time, with a style that would appeal more to Western audiences.
And I think, weirdly enough, when I look back on like my early years of like watching Toonami, which was always like, I remember being very sporadic until I think middle 2001 onward. I do not, for whatever reason, have memories of watching the Big O when it was on Toonami. So it always is still surprising to me that it is like, oh yeah, this thing that like had a brief runtime on Toonami had like a much bigger reception than it did like in its own country of origin. Like, but I guess that still kind of gets back to how it is like, it is clearly the passion of like, it's not a large crowd, but it is a very vocal crowd that absolutely adore like what this show was.
Yeah, which it deserved it. It deserves more love.
And Cartoon Network at the time seemed to notice that there was a lot of love for it, because it prompted them to approach Sunrise with the proposal to create a second season. Basically be all like, hey, you originally wanted to do 26 episodes, but had your show cut in half. Hey, how about we help you fund it and like get credited as co-producer? That way you can do those episodes you never got to do. So the result was an additional 13 episodes in 2003, not airing on Toonami, and instead, I guess capitalizing on the fact that probably like even when it was airing on Toonami for the first time, it would have been like teens and adults that probably gravitated towards it the most because it would air on Adult Swim. This would be one of those like late night anime on Saturdays during that decade. And, these 13 episodes basically being what would be known as like season 2, which we have words about that.
We have some words about
words that will be described much later.
Yeah. Also, I believe this is what I remember hearing back in the day is they had a season 3 ready to go, but for some reason it got canceled. I don't remember the exact reason.
Yeah. I think I can elaborate a bit more on like what that is in the context of, I guess, like the team's creative processing goals, like when we get to later in the podcast. But yes, I do also remember hearing about the stuff about there were plans to like kind of option a third season and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But it is sort of thing where I think, as you'll find, third season probably would not have done much to kind of change like some people's opinions of the show, considering where season 2 went.
Yeah, season 3.
But let's not worry about that for the time being. We got we got like at least a big robot to talk about.
The big robot, if you will.
The Big O, a Megadeus, as it is called. Or I guess it technically should be called Megadeus, if we're going completely phonetically, but whatever. It's like, this is one of those shows, again, like Cowboy Bebop, where it is like, I have never once in my fucking life ever watched a single episode subbed, like with the original Japanese audio track. Everything I know and remember about it is entirely from it being played in English.
This was definitely a really good dub as well, so I don't blame you. That's how I experienced it first as well.
I just find it funny though that it is like that they pronounce it as Megadeus, because I know about like the other slang for when you like say deuce, which is not spelled that.
I don't think
because part of my brain is still that of a teenager. Moving on. The Big O. Holy shit, yeah. I guess like a way of going about describing what this robot is should be to also describe like what the Megadeus are, or at the very least like the main ones, the ones that are designated as bigs, because I guess technically, like, because there are other giant robots that serve as like the monster of the week role throughout like this series, that it's like they're technically all classified as Megadeus, but the Big O and a couple others get like a special designation that it's like, I think even in like the dub, it still mostly refers to, when they say Megadeus, they're generally referring to the Big O itself.
I think so.
Because it is one of like 3 like almightily powerful giant robots that clearly have like a will of their own, that seek a worthy pilot known as a Dominus in order to take control of them. Like one thing that is always important during the startup sequence, when someone boards a Megadeus and is booting it up, the front command console, like in the cockpit, always like displays like a scrolling sentence of text that goes, "Cast in the name of God." And if it accepts you as its Dominus, it simply finishes it with the 3 words, "Ye not guilty." And then it's showtime. And you get all kinds of like you are now suddenly in control of like a giant lumbering robot with like a very, very tall neck. Like the body shape is like very interesting as far as like this kind of robot goes. Like, because of the fact that like there was some clear like tokusatsu like robot shows from the 60s and 70s that influenced this, it's funny that like the proportions do not line up with what a human would have been wearing as like a full body suit during one of those productions, because like where the joints line up do not make sense. Like it's fair to say that the shoulders are like more close to the center of like the main body piece than like where the traditional shoulder line would be.
Yeah.
So you have like this very like tall neck that like, shrinks inward until you get to the face with a very human face, I will add.
Yeah.
A very humanoid face with an otherwise like unhumanoid body to an extent, with like the torso, the arms where the biceps are like very short rods that are like connected to the biggest of all fucking fists.
Oh, I love the big chunky fists so much.
The big chunky fists that have pistons in them.
And guess it's for pile bunkering, baby.
Yeah, it's got some like strong fucking punches to it, to say the least. Even reflected in like the control like cockpit apparatuses as well, where I'm trying to think, could this have been the first like mecha anime that went with like the whole like idea of like the joystick or apparatuses or something like that, where the pilot is like always thrusting them forward in order to correlate with like a robot's punching motion?
Okay, I'm trying to recall any, and I can't, but I could be wrong here. This is one of the first
because
I remember.
Most other examples I can think of were all after this show.
Yeah, I don't know any that have done something like this. Probably somebody can correct us if they know, but I would love to know if anything
maybe I could like look through old footage and find something, but most other is I could think of, especially in the super robot genre, are like probably not exactly kind of how it is set up, because I think of stuff where it is like the powder in Mazinger, like its whole it's all meant, the controls are meant to more resemble like the handles of a motorbike. It's not the same thing.
It's not.
But yeah, it's something that has always stuck with me, where it's like, when I think of the giant piston punches of the Big O, I am also thinking of like Roger Smith like thrusting the control sticks forward in order to mimic the action.
Yeah,
it's like you always like end up seeing those like in tandem, and because of like those weapons, it's like that is its best like primary attack, which says everything you need to know about like the Big O as far as like like its use in battle, because it is a slow moving close quarters heavyweight. This robot is not going to fly at all. Instead, if it needs to get somewhere in Paradigm City, it has an entire like oversized like underground train car that just like rockets it underneath Paradigm City to any location that it needs to be launched from. So Big O's summon is always like super cool to watch because it just emerges from the ground in an explosive fashion.
It's so cool. I think Big O is one of my favorites. I would put it up there like a top 5 super robot designs, because I love how much weight there is to it. Every movement is like, oh yeah, this thing is heavy. And when it punches, when it unleashes like its attacks on you, you feel it.
Oh, absolutely. It's like there are other sub weapons as well for certain situations. Like it does have like machine guns, but it's like that's not the main source of damage as well. And obviously also has like other extra tools of its own as well. Like it has little like it has little like anchor tethers that like kind of like detach from the skirt of the robot itself, so that it could like like attach this to like a piece of the environment, or try to use it to like like lasso or attach to like another robot that it is fighting. But otherwise, just all you really need to know is that the Big O is a cool, unique, heavy design where most of the time, all you really need to be concerned with is just watching it punch things when it gets in range.
Yeah.
There are other robots that could be talked about, but they're like, because of the nature of this show, specifically the season that most of our discussion is about, which is the first season, it is very serialized work. It is very heavy on like a monster of the week structure.
Yeah.
So just about any other robot that you see most of the time besides the Big O is only going to exist for that episode.
Yeah, and
some exceptions apply, but those are like that's getting more into season 2 territory, honestly.
Yeah, and some of those would also be spoilers, of which we don't want to get into now.
Very much so. All I could really say without like being a major spoiler is, again, getting back to what I said about the type of Megaduce that Big O is.
Yeah.
it is one of 3.
Yeah.
You'll know what the other 2 are in time if you watch the show.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see them all revealed, and like not only what they are capable of doing in combat, but also how they basically, in a way, I guess, complement the Big O as far as like what terrain they are the masters of.
Mm-hmm.
Big O is clearly the master of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, like it is all about being the most powerful land-based robot imaginable.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So even though we had only one robot to talk about, that doesn't mean that we are lacking in like other characters to mention.
No.
Because there's quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get into our hero, Roger Smith, the negotiator.
What if we just made Bruce Wayne the main character instead of Batman? That's how I describe Roger Smith.
Yeah, as well as gave him a dash of James Bond in his personality.
Yeah.
And like especially with his particular attitude towards women.
It's very James Bond in a lot of ways.
Yes, because at least the Bruce Wayne side of things is that, yes, Roger Smith is a very wealthy socialite. Like, his main job as a negotiator, like, it's a fancy term for, I guess, like, in any traditional film noir type of story, would just basically be a private detective.
Yeah,
is the idea.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's rich like Bruce Wayne, he isn't like slumming it up, like sleeping at his desk in like some hole in the wall like PI office. No, he just hangs out in this mansion where, you know, like, he has like a butler of his own, which we'll get to later, as well as a variety of rules that he observes, as well as anyone that is in association with him has to observe as well. Mm-hmm. All because of like his kind of hilariously vain pursuit of being a gentleman.
Yeah. It's really funny.
I think this is also where you could say this kind of gets into maybe like where some of the Bond influence comes in, especially classic Bond with like Sean Connery or whatever, where it is just like the overwhelming charisma of someone that is like, when you look back on it, like in hindsight, you think it's like, this is what people thought like the idea of a guy being cool is, but it is so veering on the line of being a douchebag.
Pretty much.
I have this pulled up because I was reminded of this, that, you know, of what Roger's particular rules are. Mm-hmm. He mentions them throughout the show. Unsurprisingly, it's mostly focused around like during the first season. Like, the whole rules shit kind of gets dropped after a while. Mm-hmm. But I can at least see what the first 3 are, as they are basically for the first 3 episodes, there is at least a rule that is introduced. The first one: I have a special house rule that only lovely young women can unconditionally enter this mansion.
Oh, God.
A rule that I should say, very fucking dangerous and irresponsible.
Very much so. Jesus Christ, man.
And the second rule, following off of that first one: if you stay, then you wear black. He has a dress code.
Just wear all black. Sure,
yeah,
sure.
A suit, black dress, whatever it is, you gotta look the part. Mm-hmm. And then third, this is where you could probably say like the Bruce Wayne Batman stuff definitely comes into play. It's not my style to carry a gun. And you know what? I mean, he sticks with it. Because this black suited, slick backed hair looking motherfucker, like, has a fucking Dick Tracy gadget watch. Like, the wristwatch itself, like, it's made use, admittedly, is like, because it does have like some of the functions you expect from a James Bond style wristwatch, you know, like a grappling tether or laser cutter or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's mostly used as like the summoning device to call Big O to his location, obviously. Mm-hmm. But also, like James Bond, he has his own car. It's not an Aston Martin, but it is a sedan called the Griffin, and it's like it's clearly, like I say, it's supposed to be like a Bond car because it clearly is, like, well, like, because Roger Smith at no point dons a cape and cowl. But the aesthetic and the car being all black is clearly meant to make you think of the Batmobile.
Yeah, it is very much like, oh, this is like a combination of James Bond and also Batman's Batmobile. It is both. Like, with the way it
definitely
it has like a bunch of weapons and other kinds of gadgets in it.
Roger Smith, he fucking has it all.
Yeah.
I like him, especially because it is like with this kind of gets back to how it feels when you look back at like old James Bond movies with kind of like with a bit of hindsight and just how much the times have changed and like what is considered like what is considered cool or like desirable for a guy to be. That it is like Roger's character would not be as enjoyable as it was if there weren't like situations or other people to play off him in a way that makes him on occasion look like a buffoon.
Yeah, I think that helps a lot is that we have characters who make him look, that give him some humanity to him, that doesn't make him look like the perfect guy in a way. He's still got his flaws.
Yeah, because our second character is very much designed to like push his buttons deliberately. So we have the android, our Dorothy Wainwright. A very, very humanoid android. Like, in addition to the giant robots, this is also a universe where human-sized androids are a thing. What makes Dorothy special compared to all those other androids is that she looks 100% human. And, like, despite that outward appearance, which looks very human and very cute as well.
Yeah.
I do like her design. She is very monotone, deadpan, and, like, definitely leans into the fact that, like, yeah, she is technically a robot, and also Asimov's like three laws of robotics apparently exist in Paradigm City.
Apparently,
I guess that was one of the few things that was not forgotten about after the event, because she abides by those, and that doesn't stop her, however, from just like being such a snarky little girl.
I love Dorothy. I think she's my favorite character of the entire show. I love her dry, just wit and how she approaches everything in just the most blunt, robotic way, but in really funny ways.
Because her relation to Roger Smith is that first couple episodes are actually kind of dedicated to kind of setting up not just her introduction, but also how she ends up, I guess, in the employ of Roger Smith, basically being like a live-in guest at his mansion, because she's still a girl, and that still like counts as far as like falling under rule number 1, I suppose. But because of all the other rules and Roger Smith's particular behavior and eccentricities, she makes it very clear that, like his taste in fashion, absolute shit.
Yeah, she's constantly calling him out.
One particular running gag that runs through like a good number of episodes has to do with the fact that Roger Smith, presumably because his negotiation jobs can sometimes go into the early AM or not, it depends. He likes to sleep in a lot, sleeping in possibly all the way into the afternoon, which is why Dorothy hates this and decides to act as his personal alarm clock, playing the piano in his foyer at full volume and like just super fast speed, like enough that it is like you cannot ignore this. It is so grating.
Sorry, you're no sleeping in for you. You got to get up like a normal human being.
And again, because of like the fact that she is still a robot at her core, despite looking very human, much to Roger's annoyance, like you could tell, I guess, depending on who she's dealing with, and especially if it's Roger, she will explicitly play up having more robotic like movements and gestures than she would be if she were to talk with anyone else that she has infinitely more respect for, where she actually can act and like behave a lot more human. Her voice is still monotone, like it doesn't really like have much more inflection beyond it outside of like, very specific moments. But it goes to show that it's like, even though it's like a lot of the time she's just beefing with Roger Smith because, half of the time he annoys her, the other half she thinks it's funny. But like she gets along with everyone else just very naturally, and by extension, like anyone that meets her, they also are like very cordial with her. Because I mean, for fuck's sake, just look at this girl. Especially after she is forced to wear a black dress as part of Roger's dress code.
Yeah. She
still makes it look good.
She does. I
fucking love Dorothy. It's the sort of thing where I'd be half tempted to want to hang out with a girl like her, even if it meant that I would also be on the receiving end of her snark. Totally worth it.
It's still worth it.
But obviously with Roger, being a very Bruce Wayne like figure, having a mansion of his own, living the high life, he's got to have like a maid staff or a butler at least. Well, he does have a butler. He's got his own Alfred, and that is Norman Berg. Just imagine if you decided to give Alfred an eye patch, and that's him. Yeah. And also military experience, which actually I forget. Weren't there like backstories for Alfred where he was actually someone that served in the military?
Yeah, a lot of modern like Alfred has that as his backstory, where he's like he has more experience in military stuff.
Yeah, Norman has some of that as well, because like his presence, you obviously see him most of the time at like at the mansions, never really anywhere else most of the time. He's just there to keep the place clean and also to make sure that Big O gets transported to Roger's location whenever it is needed. And there are times, at least in like the manga adaptation, which I know like was definitely like a thing that happened kind of like in between seasons, when you do actually get to see moments of like Norman getting to do something actiony, it does like give you like a pretty heavy reminder is that, oh yeah, this dude has combat experience. Do not fuck with this butler.
I mean, he does pull out like a giant minigun at one point in the anime.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm just thinking the other one that I actually had to like look up afterwards briefly with like the manga, where I think it was like basically scares off some punks being, oh, like, you think that's how you use a Tommy gun? This is how you use it. And then like shoots a perfect outline around the thugs themselves in order to scare them away.
That's perfect.
Which is like, that is 100% the thing I expect from like a combat butler.
Yeah, that's great. That's perfect.
Otherwise, it's like, yeah, Norman is very much the type of character that has his station and basically like sticks with it, and you are not like meant to, he's not going to be present with Roger and Dorothy all the time unless, of course, it's at the mansion.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So we obviously have our Bruce Wayne. We have our sidekick, which is not at all anything like the other sidekicks that Batman has had. We have Alfred. Naturally, we need to have like a potential love interest that is on the moral ambiguous side of things. Your film noir femme fatale.
Yeah.
And that is Angel. Quite the mysterious character, and interestingly, I guess as far as like the English dub cast, because this is one of those shows where it is like where I've only ever watched it dubbed. Like with Roger Smith, I forgot to mention, voiced by Steve Bloom.
Yeah,
naturally,
of course. Yeah,
of course you get him on for this. It's like, hey, you were Spike in Cowboy Bebop. You got the perfect cool guy voice. Do it here, and Angel is Wendy Lee. So we got Spike and Faye in this production, and the reason she's known as Angel is because at least revealed in like one episode in the middle of season 1 is that like she has like 2 long scars down her back that basically it's supposed to symbolize as like, oh, she's Angel because she had angel wings before supposedly losing them.
Yeah,
but yeah, she's otherwise the femme fatale. Kind of, I guess, the Catwoman, I guess, if you still want to keep going with like the with like the Batman analogies for like a lot of these characters. But like her whole deal is that like she is like meant to be very, very mysterious. Not as much like story emphasis for season 1, despite that. It's really only like in season 2, admittedly, that like, with how that season starts to get a bit more narrative focused and like dealing with a bit of a different focus from the first one, is that she gets to be like kind of like more at the center of like a lot of episodes. But at least one thing that you can tell is still kind of clear, like even then, is that like because of like how she composes herself and like when she's interacting with Roger, you can tell that like it has an impact on like whatever job that she might be hired to do, because she's clearly infatuated.
Yeah.
And I guess would it still technically count as like a love triangle if like the person that is like that is stuck between these two doesn't really care much about like trying to choose one? Because it's clearly meant to be like Angel has feelings for Roger, but also gets the suspicion that there is feelings from him for Dorothy.
I guess so. I guess it kind of counts as a love triangle. There's some romantic tension there. It's a very loose definition of one.
That said, though, as far as Angel's design, should be important to note when you look at her is that you might think she seems almost out of place because she appears like a Leiji Matsumoto type of looking design.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of that, but really, like, she's a character that more specifically is designed to look like Fujiko Mine, a prominent character from the long-running series Lupin the Third.
Yeah.
Which I think also kind of plays in as well to the fact that she is like something of a mysterious, morally ambiguous woman with like an on and off romantic relation with the main character.
And also like is constantly disguising herself in other roles and like trying to get in, like influence with more powerful people for her own reasons, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, because you definitely see her with like all types of figures throughout Big O, definitely. But our last character, to go with another Batman analogy, we gotta have obviously our own Commissioner Gordon. Well, he's not a commissioner, but he is a major in Paradigm City's military police, and that is Don Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
A character with a beard much like Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop, and yet for whatever reason he is not voiced by Jet. Missed opportunity I am going to say.
Very missed opportunity.
Especially when Roger and Dan are actually very good buds with each other.
Yeah.
Like he is in charge of like a contingent of like the military police in Paradigm City, a city that is essentially like a corporate owned hellscape. By the way, they own everything, including the police. That it's like Dustin is definitely like one of those cop figures where it is like, okay, he's obviously part of like a shitty institution like the police, but he is also in kind of a bad spot where like the institution itself is owned by a corporate entity that he has even more disdain for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of in between a rock and a hard place where it is like he's just trying to do his job as like what he thinks he definitely should be doing as like a protector of the peace, except that it is like you'll find the Paradigm Corporation gives very little shits about most of its inhabitants.
It sure does.
But he is good friends with Roger Smith, mainly because I believe the background detail is that Roger, I think, was like a member of the military police before he went independent, which, you know, ties back into a lot of that familiar film noir tropes. You know, I was like a private investigator, previously being a detective on the force, but like gave up the badge because he was no longer, because he kind of had a falling out with the way they were doing things, something like that. But he's still good friends with Dustin all the same, which is why, like, in a good number of cases, he's basically like one of the, you know, like he's one of the first people that he'll usually go to if it's like, hey, I'm working on a case of something, or it's like, hey, have you ever heard of such and such? You know, something that relates to whatever the current episode is about, and that'll usually provide like certain info. It's actually not only until funny enough until season 2 where it's basically acknowledged that at some point in time, Dustin basically was told by Roger, "Oh yeah, actually, I'm the pilot of the Big O. I'm the one that's piloting that Mega Deuce that keeps saving the city while also fucking up like so much and causing so much property damage that it like gives you a headache." Because that's the other thing throughout this entire season. Like Dustin is also trying to do what he can for like the pride of like the police force that he is a part of, but it's really hard to like make it seem like they're doing a good job when he is seeing like the problem get solved by a giant robot and also destroy way more buildings in the process before the problem is resolved.
He's constantly suffering. He's constantly like on the verge of a heart attack.
But it's like, I guess it's one of those things where it's like credit where credit is due for the second season. He also gets like some pretty great moments as well that show that like he's not gonna lie down and take shit anymore.
Yeah,
you know, so you do get to at least see some growth on that front, and just that, oh yeah, it's like even as things go on and he is aware that like one of his best buds is actually the pilot of the Black Megadeus, the Big O, you know, he's still gonna do what he thinks is right, and obviously still be friends with Roger Smith, the negotiator.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our primary characters, all protagonists. There are a variety of villains. Roger Smith does have his own rogues gallery, but again, much like with a lot of the giant robots and monsters, yes, I should clarify, there are actually some for real legit monsters. We get some kaiju in this show every now and again. But like those giant monsters and robots, they do get cycled out pretty frequently.
Yeah, like we said, it's very monster of the week.
So, why do we recommend the Big O?
Yeah, let's talk about why we recommend this.
So, I think the biggest thing that like makes it easy for us to recommend this anime is that, like, in contrast to most anime, including mecha itself, is that you can tell like what sort of styles and sensibilities are imparted on like those works because of the fact that it is made by Japanese creators, and like the cultural influences and ideas they have are very specific to their country of origin.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do you get works from Japan that wear the influence of foreign media like so prominently on its sleeve.
Yeah.
And Big O absolutely exemplifies that idea. Like, even compared to other like very unique mecha anime that we've talked about, you know, where there's like, you can see, okay, yeah, there's obviously like some inspiration or acknowledgement of like foreign stuff. I mean, for fuck's sake, we talked about Eureka 7 last week. We know all about like the alternative music references and shit that's in there, but it's still a show that feels significantly more Japanese, at least because of like its story and characterization compared to what the Big O goes for, where it is 100% channeling like film noir, like Western radio serialized story beats, as well as, you know, like an aesthetic that is, you know, like not a direct copy for Batman the Animated Series, but like still very heavily inspired by what it presented.
It is just unique in its style, where it feels like it's a mix of both Western and Eastern in a way, but it feels definitely like you definitely see a lot more of that like film noir, the Art Deco like style from Batman TAS in this.
It's the kind of anime that I feel if you were to have like, I definitely think if you just like showed this to random people without any sort of like, you know, prior explanation, they probably would think it was like some unknown Western cartoon.
Yeah.
At least maybe until the giant robots came around. I don't know, because I feel those are very distinctly Japanese. That's where you can really tell that like the Japan side of things is coming through, because no one does giant robots or loves them the way that the Japanese do.
Yeah, I think the moment you bring out the gyro robots, it becomes obvious. Oh, this was made in Japan. Okay.
yeah, made in Japan in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. We mean that positively.
And like when we've been talking about the Big O, obviously we've been making an emphasis on the fact that like a lot of what we're talking about is from like what is presented in season 1, and that is because like season 1 in particular, like those 13 episodes are absolutely fantastic. You know, obviously the short runtime means that it's like you don't need to dedicate too many hours of your life in order to get through it. But also what helps it is that it is genuinely one of the best examples of like of a show where the overwhelming majority of its runtime is just one-off stories and is like totally able to justify it.
Yeah.
Like, is there a greater narrative running in the background? Sure, absolutely. They clearly put a lot of thought into like the world and setup for like Paradigm City, and like making you wonder what the event was that caused everyone to have collective amnesia. But that's not as important as, you know, just seeing Roger Smith take on a new case for the week, and that is ultimately going to culminate in a giant robot battle.
Yeah, I think it's got like its strength is the same strength as like Cowboy Bebop, where the best episodes are all the one-off episodes, and the weaker and the ones based on the plot are kind of weaker in a lot of ways.
Well, at least weaker relatively.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, first season alone is absolutely worth your time. When it comes to the second season, though, that's where it gets a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
We were holding off on this as much as we could because like it makes more sense to talk about it here instead of the prehistory, because like in hindsight, I do think it was still admirable of Cartoon Network to commission more Big O because of the fact that Western audiences were considerably more receptive to it than Japan was originally.
Yeah.
The problem eventually came up when you realize, oh yeah, you're getting a completely different company from a country across the ocean with probably different values coming to you, the original creators, and being like, okay, like we'd love to fund this. We'll be co-producers on this. We have some requests though. Specifically, they had 2, which were somewhat at odds with like the show's original goals. The first one was they wanted more action. Like, across the board in general, not even referring more to just, like, oh, just make the giant robot fights more spectacular, is like, because when you see a lot of the episodes in the first season, it is very noir inspired to the point where it is like, you are spending a good chunk of those episodes just dudes sitting around or standing around in like a seedy bar or other part of the town, soaking in the atmosphere and just talking.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. You're not really going to get too much beyond that until like the actual Big O fights to crop up in like, the finale, like the closing arc of the episode. Like on foot action, generally pretty rare. And I'm pretty sure like the season that season 2 was definitely trying to up that a bit more, along with like the emphasis on the robot fights as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, it's kind of whatever. The second request was obviously way more concerning,
Yeah.
and that was they wanted major plot revelations. They wanted them to actually just come out and explain a bit more of, like, if not explain the whole thing, then at least give a little taste of, like, okay, what is the real mystery of the Big O?
And it turns out the mystery is not that interesting, actually. It's not.
Yeah, well, I think this might be one where we slightly differ.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have more of an issue with, like, well, maybe it's an issue where it's more by design of the creators themselves.
Yeah.
Where them reveal, it's a case of them like deciding to answer a question by suddenly like leaving like 5 more open on the table.
Yeah.
Even though I think some of like the twists and like ideas behind it are actually kind of interesting, and you can see like that it clearly was not something that they pulled out of their ass just for the season 2 finale.
Yeah.
Like the very concept of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the extra questions they layered on top probably were pulled out of their ass, but that's mostly due to the fact that the reason this particular request was kind of at odds with the staff at Sunrise is because they wanted this to be a work where it is like there was no definitive ending. That was kind of the whole point.
They wanted to be late.
Like, they could reveal things, but the whole idea is that they wanted it to like always end the show. Even before it was cut down to 13 episodes, they always wanted to end it in a way where it is like you could see that as a logical conclusion for this show to wrap up, as well as a potential cliffhanger for, hey, maybe if we got the opportunity to do more episodes, we can follow up on this, which is where the rumor you brought up about there being a season 3 that was potentially in the works, and that it was possibly being promised to Sunrise that this is what would happen. I don't know. I'm kind of the mind that like the promise of there being a season 3 wasn't really anything that was like set in stone or anything, because that probably would have resulted in like way more bad blood if it was like, oh, that thing we promised to do, yeah, we decided not to because ratings were actually low again.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually like I said, it's like we said, it's a rumor. We don't know if it's true or not, but if it was true, then we'd probably hear something a little more about it, and there definitely would be a more negative vibes around it too.
All that can really be confirmed for true is the stuff that Katayama has said, which is those 2 requests from Cartoon Network were things he confirmed himself, and that he actively like made sure that the ending for season 2 was this very ambiguous thing that that would have worked out in a way where it's like, hey, if the season did well, that they were given the opportunity for a 3rd season, they would have done it. But since they didn't, it's left on the same sort of ambiguous notes that, to be fair, season 1, well, I guess it has the least amount of ambiguity, but it is still very much a sort of not ending of, it's like, oh, it could work as the ending, but also it works just as well as a tease for like, hey, more stories could happen. Because the whole point was that they wanted the Big O, they wanted this entire series to be one where it is like, just like old film noir and like radio serialized dramas from like the 30s and 40s, back in the past, where it is like any number of stories they could come up with in that universe that could possibly go on forever. They could do it if they wanted.
For a bit of my grousing, I don't think season 2 is also terrible as well. I think it's perfectly fine, so weaker than the first season, and I just like that first season a whole lot.
I agree, yeah. I think I used this comparison with you when we were talking about it before the episode, but it often reminds me of how it is like when you get into discussions with people about standalone complex and how it is like the first season is in a similar spot of being like an untouchable status of being so goddamn good.
Yeah.
That it's like, second gig isn't terrible, but you can obviously see a bit more holes in it compared to what came before.
Yeah, which is a good way to put it, I feel.
Yeah, so that said, even if it is not as strong and cohesive as like the first season, I still say that the second season is still an enjoyable watch all the same. Mm-hmm. I think like it might seem weird to say this, especially with how much praise we put on season 1, and if you're someone that thinks that it's only worth it to devote your time to what is the absolute best. But I think if you come away loving deeply the kind of stuff that the Big O does, you owe it to yourself to at least see season 2 anyway.
Yeah.
And form your opinion from there on like what you think about, where it ends up and like whether or not you learn something about tomatoes or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, like if you'll learn a lot about tomatoes or some kind of metaphor about tomatoes. I don't know. Japan has some weird thing with tomatoes.
It's actually more than just Japan, but I think I'll save that for like the very end of this podcast because we know what our highlight discussion is going to be, but that doesn't mean we can't at least just drop what the season 2 bombshell is just to let people decide from there. It's like, oh, that sounds dumb. No thanks. Or that's dumb. Now I have to see it.
Yeah, it could be either or. But
yeah. So obviously that means the next question is, where do you watch Big O if you want to get in on this? Unfortunately, shit out of luck. Streaming options are non-existent. Worse yet, as it was like, I believe when I was trying to look this stuff up, apparently High Dive used to have the first season, but like season 1 only, but then it got removed. And like getting a hold of season 2 legitimately is also like a very weird situation considering that like because of the co-producing credits that Cartoon Network had on it, as a result of that agreement, they gained like exclusive broadcasting rights for season 2, and it's why whenever it's like had its rerun like on Toonami, weirdly enough, they were only allowed to show season 2 because that's all they had.
Huh.
It's a really bizarre fucking situation.
That's weird.
Yeah, streaming's out of the question. There were like Blu-rays for the Big O, obviously, that were like picked up by Sentai Filmworks for both seasons, but that was like a decade ago or something. Those are obviously secondhand and like expensive. So yeah, it's the same as always. Sail the high seas. Just go for it.
You're a smart person. You probably know how to do that. Yeah, I know you can do it.
All right. We got that. We got all that cleared up. Now we're ready for our spoiler discussion.
All right, yeah, let's talk about some episodes. So
yeah, one of the easier fucking like episodes of this podcast to decide what to talk about during spoilers because, like we said, this is a very serialized season. Like just about everything is like so like separate from each other that it is like this might almost seem like a cop out when I say it, but I do genuinely believe it. For season 1. Every episode is a highlight.
It's all good. We could have talked about any episode and been worth talking about.
Just stop this podcast and watch season 1 if you haven't already.
Just watch it.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
It's a quick watch. You get through it. Otherwise, whether you have seen the Big O or haven't, stick around as we talk about 2 episodes from season 1. See you on the other side.
See you, everyone.
We have come to terms. All right. We got us 2 episodes, one like in the middle and like one that is like damn near the end of season 1, and both are like quite frankly fantastic for entirely separate reasons.
Yeah, funny enough, we have like a one-off episode and we have something that ties into the larger narrative later.
Yeah, but like but doesn't require too much time to explain what even goes into like that particular episode.
Yeah.
Because like it gets to the points pretty fucking quick. But our first highlight episode is episode 6, A Legacy of Amadeus. A name where Deus is actually in it, and they actually pronounce it correctly as opposed to Megadeus, but whatever.
Whatever.
Our episode starts by showing what has been the routine in Roger's current life, something that we already described in our primary character section, Dorothy's alarm clock piano performance, just playing at full volume and at a rapid pace that, this is one of those things where, I know that it is clearly the same animations that get used every time this gag happens across multiple episodes. Mm-hmm. Just, Roger rustling in bed, trying to drown out the noise before just slamming the door open, fucking furious. And then Dorothy with the very slow robotic head turn.
It's almost funny, though.
He tries to say good morning in a very disgruntled way before being corrected. Actually, it's past noon, you lazy bum. Or rather, oh god, I can't believe I forgot to mention this in the primary character section, is Dorothy's actual catchphrase for what she calls Roger. You're a louse, Roger Smith. But aside from the fact that Dorothy is continuing to annoy the shit out of Roger's desire for a peaceful morning, what he is actually getting fed up with this time is her music ability. And the fact that, just like everything about who she is at her core, she is robotic as shit the way that she plays it. Just this extremely super fast piano piece that no human could do with 100% accuracy, that he decides, fuck it, this girl needs to learn what it's like to actually play the piano. I'm gonna get her signed up for some lessons.
It took him this long to realize that.
Yeah, because he obviously knew for a while, but this was already at pushing him to the breaking point. Mm-hmm. So we are being brought over to the location of our episode-specific character, Dorothy's new instructor who plays at the Amadeus Pub and Restaurant, a robot pianist named Instro. R Instro, I guess is the full name, which is supposed to show that, if there's the letter R, I guess it's supposed to signify that, yes, this is, without a shadow of a doubt, a robot, an android, this is not a human. So we're giving the robot girl piano instructions from a robot pianist, but on the surface, looking 100% like a robot. His face is metallic and everything. He has much more human playing ability than Dorothy's. That's why Roger has decided to arrange this, and as you can see, Roger is actually very good friends with Instro, prior to this. Mm-hmm. So they actually have history with each other and knew who they are. This definitely gets into, I guess, showing how very noir-like and not very action focused these episodes can be, but still be engaging all the same.
Yeah,
because you get the conversation with Roger and Instro, and how it kind of delves into giving you the necessary exposition about who Instro is. His father was known as Amadeus, who owned the restaurant and was fond of playing the piano and taught Instro how to play the piano. And the flashbacks themselves are very interesting when you think about it, because you see what is supposed to be Instro as a child, but the lighting is always done in such a way that you never see his face, with the idea supposed to be Instro, the robot, is made from with the memories of Amadeus's actual for real human son, who is clearly not of this world anymore.
Yeah.
But that's also not the only flashback that happens during the exposition, because with how these androids are set up and the fact that they can be built with the memories of a previously existing human, Dorothy was also the same way, because you assume as much that it's okay, this was either Dorothy when she was a human before her memories got put into a android replica of her, or maybe this was something that she actually got taught by her creator as an android, because you see her on a stage performing as a diva. One of the few times that you can claim to ever see Dorothy with what looks like a smile on her face.
It's definitely very economical storytelling, where it tells you so much, but it leaves you it tells so much in so little time, and it's engaging the whole way through.
And smart, attentive viewers will be able to pick up on exactly what the visuals are inferring, as these flashbacks are being shown with the piano nocturne that's playing in the background. Mm-hmm. After that discussion, Dorothy's lessons begin. Instro initially thinks that it's oh, you just want me to teach her how to play the nocturne that I was doing on the piano, but she does it so perfectly already. But then it's no, I want her to learn how to play it like you do, make it more human.
Mm-hmm.
But that obviously gets interrupted by a very shady looking fellow, another an episode specific character who we'll find later on is named Giseng. Just evilest fucking old man that you could come up with.
Like, the moment he walks in, it's like, oh, you're the villain. No, don't even say anything. You got the monocle, you got the hair, you got the top hat. Everything about you screams villain.
Yeah, the cloak, the very pale skin that is like, I feel like that is the sort of thing where it's like, you know how it was like, especially kind of in like older like anime or games or whatever, where it's like if there was like a character that's designated as evil, like the evil version, it would usually have like a tan applied to their skin to signify as such.
Yeah.
This is like the opposite of that, where it is like, oh no, like this is like the most palest skin tone he can get away with, and that is somehow just as evil. Like it even makes it, I think with the hair especially, almost makes it look like that he has like pointed ears, like he's a fucking goblin or something.
It does make him look like that.
And that he comes by, sees Instro and is like, tries to have like a conversation with him, obviously about like some sort of deal that he wants Instro to basically agree to, despite Instro clearly not wanting to. Roger knows that something is up, so he's getting right to investigating, as always. Like, compared to what it would be like if you were to watch any film noir, you know, like an actual film of that style from like the decade it was prominent in, that all this would be taking a lot longer to like get from point A to B to C. But because of this being a TV anime with like a 20+ minute runtime, it's like you said earlier, is how very efficient like the animation and stuff is, where it is like they're showing you everything you need in as like clean, efficient of a time that they can, that even like the actual exposition and plot points, they get everything that you need to know about it like as fast as possible. You know, everything from like how it starts at Roger's home, which is like the whole like the impetus for starting this episode, where Roger just wants to get Dorothy some proper piano lessons, then like the whole exposition and like atmosphere at the bar, and then going straight to Dustin's office at the police headquarters, basically kind of talking with him, is like, yo, Dustin, you ever heard of a guy named Giseng? And then you get the next part of the exposition where, oh, he was actually a partner of Amadeus. They were working on some kind of like on some sort of like government weapon before Paradigm Corporation decided to just shaft them on all the funding, and that clearly like caused problems between the two of them, especially Giseng. That's how you know something is up, because Giseng is continuing to like gun for Amadeus' son. You get a shot of him going back to the bar with a mysterious staff in hand, and it's clearly not good.
Yeah, it's not.
There is a fun aside, though, where you see Dorothy back at Roger's mansion, and and she makes an observation about the difference in pianos at Roger's place and the bar that Instro plays at, and like her comment comes off as like such like a snobby criticism of it. It's like, this piano is not as finely tuned. It's like, yeah, I mean, that is very matter of fact and objectively true, but man, your monotone like way of speaking does not make it like come off any less scathing.
It really does. Like everything she says has like this hint of like slight amount of venom to it in a way, or like passive aggressiveness. She's like set on passive aggressive for like permanently or something.
But you can at least tell, like, even after all that, she is still thinking about it. Like, by this point, you know, even though like it was all set up by Roger, you can tell that, like, I think with that whole experience, that she is genuinely interested in like wanting to like continue those piano lessons with Instro, because now she's actually caring a lot more about particular details about the piano that she never really bothered to think of, because all she would do was just play the same fucking song every goddamn morning or afternoon in the exact same style and like with perfect accuracy. To no one's surprise, Instro goes missing. There's a fucking hole blasted into the piano at the bar. Like the door was locked, and Roger was just about ready to try and jimmy it open before Dorothy just knocks it over.
Just shoves it over. Like, of course.
Yeah.
She's got no time for this.
Again, she may be a robot that's designed to look like a girl, but there is metal underneath that skin. Yeah. She is tough. She is designed for action, and will do it if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when it's clear that like Giseng is that like has made his move and Instro is missing, there is despite the still monotone delivery, you get to see how much more that Dorothy is actually invested in Instro and like her current lessons, that like what she says is like how it is worded is very much like a genuine plea to Roger to please find Instro and bring him back.
Yeah.
Even though it is like the as emotionless of a delivery as you can get, you still feel the intent where it is like no, this actually is, you know, this is sad for her too.
Yeah.
You know, she wants to fix this.
It's like, oh yeah, she's not completely emotionless. There's still like a small human side to her that cares, even if she doesn't show it.
Yeah. So we're now going to look for what could possibly be the next possible place to find any clues to Instro's whereabouts. They go to the old abandoned estate that was owned by Amadeus himself on the kind of like along the outer edges of Paradigm City, because this is where we're like kind of going outside the realm of like the domes itself. That's how you know like which part of the cities are occupied by the haves and the have-nots, is like who gets to live inside the domes away from like the harsh winter conditions of the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they get to Amadeus's old estate. They look around. Unsurprisingly, it obviously still has a piano in there, still you know, together and in working condition.
Mm-hmm.
Roger looking at a photo of Amadeus and Instro, showing that once again, yes, we are not showing you what Instro's actual human face was, you know, both for the audience's sake, but also probably because I'm gonna say this is my theory, and maybe this because I had Soma like in the back of my brain like a couple like a month or so ago, just at the time we recorded this, since you know it was close to Halloween, and just thinking about how like that game starts, where it is like where like your player character is deliberately still seeing himself as human, even though he is just like a robot head on like on a diving suit.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I did.
Like, it's that sort of thing where I feel like it is also just to kind of reflect the fact that Instro probably does not want to think about the difference of like him clearly being a robot with a robot face, as opposed to who he was, like who his memories of who he was as a child were, which were clearly human.
Yeah, it's very classic sci-fi in that kind of topic that I was trying to touch on.
Yeah, because this is a robot that looks more robotic than Dorothy, yet talks and behaves the same way that like any normal human would.
Yeah,
like you can tell what the commentary is with like that sort of like kind of contrast between the two. But all that is interrupted. A giant robot appears, and this robot, to everyone's shock, is piloted by Instro. Or I guess more fair to say, Instro, I guess, is like has been like fused into it and is basically trapped inside where the cockpit would be. Like this actually gets at I think the actual core of what I like about this episode and why I wanted to have it as like one of our episodes for discussion, is because with how Roger can typically like behave during like throughout this show, is that I like how much Roger shows so much care for Instro and treating a robot like him the same way as he would any other human.
Yeah.
Because obviously he has like, you know, the air of like almost being kind of full of himself and like trying to be like a gentleman at all times for like appearance's sake. But he does have genuine care for, you know, like the downtrodden. He has he does show like actual care and respect towards women and the elderly, and like to show such like of that same care towards like a robot that anyone else would just look at as like a tool, you know, like Giseng is in this case, is like what makes this fight like one of those fights that it has a clearly tragic like emotional core behind it. Like he's calling out Big O because it's a last resort, and like he obviously needs to stop Instro from doing something terrible and shaming his father's legacy, but like he also doesn't want to do anything to harm him because Instro is all that is left of Amadeus.
Yeah, it shows like that Roger is still a very compassionate man, and he doesn't want to. He kind of struggles a lot with like the fight because he doesn't want to fight something he doesn't want to fight somebody he thinks is his friend, even if it's just a
Yeah.
robot, it's like, no, this is a being with a life. I don't want to take it away from him.
Yeah, and you see that Instro like has like a huge like kind of like conflict internally because of the fact that like he at least knows that he's like built as a robot, but due to like Giseng's meddling, is that Giseng is doing all this because he was upset at Paradigm Corporation for basically taking away their funding for like a sonic weapon of some sort. That in his rage he and like plans to try and get revenge. He killed Amadeus and then has been like trying ever since to get Instro along with his plan to like basically fuse with this robot and like goad him into thinking that piloting this robot and controlling the sonic weapon is Amadeus's legacy.
Yeah.
Which is not at all what Roger is trying to convince Instro of, where it is in fact, no, Instro, you are Amadeus's legacy. You are his son. You know?
Yeah.
He did not make you for this. And the thing that like eventually gets Instro to like come to his senses, what saves his soul, is Dorothy playing a piano melody in Amadeus's home, which stops the robot, which stops Constance in its tracks. And, you know, because it is otherwise like not out of commission yet and it still needs to be disabled, Big O is still going to tear it apart, remorsefully so. But at least Giseng gets done in by a piece of the robot falling on him, so the real villain is dealt with. Hooray!
It's the most Looney Tunes ass way they could have fucking got him. It's like, oh, just here's a piece of debris. This falls on him. That's it. He's dead. He's gone.
Yeah, although not very comedic in that sense. I guess it feels more like a Disney villain death.
Okay, it's more.
I think is how I'd put it.
Okay, more Disney villain is a better way to put it. Yes, where it's more. Yeah.
Considering he looks like a Disney villain.
He does.
So like the real evil has been dealt with, but Instro, considering what he has been put into inside this robot, and some of the guilt that he feels like having to fight Roger, he is very quick to try and start destroying himself, like pulling his like arms that have been basically like connected to like the cockpit of the robot itself, like pulling it out, and you're seeing in like very exquisite detail just like all the metal and wires getting torn apart, that it is like, oh, like bro, Instro, buddy, please do not be so quick to like self-terminate out of guilt because you don't think you deserve to be a pianist any longer. After all, Dorothy still needs her lessons. Like it's really great how it's framed too, because it's like showing that yes, Dorothy is just as invested in seeing Instro is saved like Roger is. She's the one who like shows up right next to Roger, basically saying as much. It's like, no, like I still need to learn more from you.
Yeah.
The next morning arrives, and things at the Rogers estate is significantly different. He's actually lying in bed with a very relaxed and serene look on his face because he is not being rudely awoken by Dorothy's usual routine. Instead, Dorothy and Instro are at the piano, and it is Instro who is playing specifically to rehabilitate himself and relearn how to play the piano, as because of him self-mutilating his arms, it unfortunately meant that like those arms that were made were built by Amadeus himself with like very precise mechanisms in there so that he could play the piano like as an expert from the get-go. But now that he has like more standard robot arms as a replacement, in an interesting turn of things, Dorothy is basically the one that gets to be the teacher, like kind of helping him like get back to like learning the basics of playing a piano with his new arms. It's like it's a real sweet scene. As like she's just like, you know, up against the piano, like moving her finger like a metronome to keep beat. It's very sweet. And then Dorothy starts her bullshit again, right at noon, getting that louse Roger Smith straight out of bed. At least Instro's impressed, because Roger isn't.
Well, that's what you get for being a bum and sleeping until noon, Roger. Something I have never done myself.
Yeah. I mean, sleeping all the way until this past noon is like, even on the days where I feel like sleeping in, even I feel like that's too much.
That's too much.
Yeah, it just all concludes with like I fucking love like Western cartoon I got a bullshit where it's just like he just yells her full name like at max volume.
Yeah,
it's like our Dorothy Wainwright.
It's such a good end to the episodes.
To which it says like where like some episodes would say to be continued. Most episodes in the Big O will end on we have come to terms.
Yeah,
this one. It just says no side.
No side.
That was episode 6. It's absolutely one of my personal favorites.
Good one.
And like a really as great of like it's like one of the best like totally isolated one-off episodes you could hope for in a show like this.
The best thing about this episode is that it shows all the strength of season 1's episodes where they're self-contained and they have all these really good stories that tell a full complete story in a very satisfying way.
That said, even the episodes that still have something to do with like the greater narrative are still pretty fucking fantastic in season 1.
They're still pretty
which
good.
is why we're going straight to the penultimate episode.
Yeah.
Episode 12. Enemy is another big.
A
very, very awkward sounding English title, but it makes a lot of sense. We're putting the spotlight on a villain that was introduced like very early on in season 1, and arguably like the most memorable in like Roger Smith's like entire rogues gallery, I guess.
Yeah,
and that is Schwarzwald, a former like investigative journalist for Paradigm Press who went missing and off the deep end, that he is now just like a bandaged up, like conehead looking motherfucker who is intent on revealing the truth to the masses at all cost, even if it means like committing such heinous acts. Getting back to him after this long from, I think it was episode 4, that was his introduction. He is back with a big surprise, to say the least.
He's got his own big like giant robot now that's like all wrapped up in bandages.
Yep, it's just hanging out on like the outskirts of town, and Roger arrives with his own Megadeus to see it. But it's like this is one of those starts to the episode where you get what the scenario is, but you're clearly missing some of the context. It's like, why are they here? Like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Well, you get a flashback where Roger is tasked by our overarching antagonist, the real evil of this show, Alex Rosewater, leader of the Paradigm Company and therefore owner of the entire city. A fucking corporate
evil,
like rich guy who has as much disdain for the lower class as pretty much any other rich bastard in our current timeline.
Yeah, we got an evil capitalist as our main antagonist, which it works for a lot in a lot of ways.
Still doesn't mean that Roger's not going to like do any tasks that might be like offered to him by Alex, because like he is the top negotiator in Paradigm City. His services are very highly requested, and the request they have for Roger in this case is to negotiate with a former employee of Paradigm Press named Michael Sibak. Or Seabach. Seabach's how it's spelled, but like they pronounce it almost like it's a Z. But the whole idea is that, hey, so this guy, he's refused to accept the severance pay. Please give him this check, which has like way too many zeros that our slow camera pan over isn't even going to show you what the final digit is. Because, surprise, Michael Seabach, that's actually Schwarzwald.
Yeah.
Like, Alex knows exactly what the fuck he is doing, and is expressly trying to set things up so that Roger goes to where Schwarzwald is and like deals with him in any way possible, so that whatever plan he has does not do anything to even so much as inconvenience Alex. That's basically like what the setup is for this episode's conflict. Like, you get that meeting, of which Angel is present as Alex's secretary, by the way.
Yeah.
Kind of showing that again of how much of a mysterious woman she is, that you see her pop up in all kinds of different roles, but she's still easily identifiable because she always has that same hairstyle.
Like, you get to see, this is what I mean, like with her working for like powerful people. She works as, I guess you could say she disguised herself as his secretary.
Yeah.
She has her own goals. We just don't know what those goals are yet.
So back to the present. We see Big O and the mysterious bandaged robot squaring off against each other at what looks basically to be like the ruins of what seems like an Air Force base. You know, because again, we're well on the outskirts, so like the outer edges of like of like Paradigm City. It's still very snowy. It's still a waste out there. The military police, Daston is there with his boys to try and like kind of like make sure that everything's under control. And this episode, by contrast to what we talked about before, wastes little time getting to the action of all things. It's like I had to check the timestamp, and it was like within like the first for about like 5 minutes, like the first 5 minutes or so, I think, of the entire episode, that we get to see these two men of different ideals clash. And like the fight starts off really cool because it's like the robot's proving to be quite a capable match for the Big O, even going so far as to like use all kinds of very unique abilities that Roger, I guess, like at least one of them seems to recognize, one being an eye laser. But then you see like the bandages starting to get shredded and torn away, and like propellers, like prop propellers coming out of like the arms. And then it's finally revealed that the robot that Schwarzfeld has is the big reason for why he is Roger's greatest rival. He has a Mega Deuce. Meet the Big Duo.
Yeah, this is the big reveal. There's another big, like as the name said, the name of this episode said, and this one can fly.
Oh yeah, that's what the propellers are for. And because, again, this is still a Mega Deuce that is like very big and bulky looking, with how strong the propellers are, like you basically now have a robot that has like the air maneuverability of like a big like air gunship or something. Like, you know, like if you just took the concept of an AC-130 and made this into like a giant robot. Because with those propellers that it has attached to its arms, like once it makes its reveal, the Big Duo just vanishes and flies away.
Yeah, it's just gone.
Definitely leaves Roger thinking about a lot of things after that fight.
Bro is just brooding in the most extra way. He's like hanging out on the rooftop. Why'd you pick that spot to brood, Roger?
Because he's a gentleman.
Yeah, you're right. He has to do it in the most gentlemanly way.
His own fucking Playboy definition of what a gentleman is.
Also, a brief tangent. I just realized, oh wait, Deus means God. So when they say Mega Deus, that means they're mega gods.
Yeah.
I just think that's funny. They're just called mega gods. Anyways, we can just go on about the rest of the episode. I just wanted to say that.
It's a shame they didn't think to like reveal like an even greater Mega Deuce that is like a super, so that we could have super mega god. Super Mega God EX Alpha. Dash.
There you go. Hire us. We have ideas, please. We need some place to put them.
Katayama, I know you're listening to this.
Please. We should get back to the episode.
But back to the episode.
Yeah.
because the story still has to keep moving, you know? Roger Smith's brooding and wondering about whether a Mega Deuce can even fly is cut short when he gets a call from Angel. And that call includes an invite to a masquerade ball that is like happening inside like the major dome, like at the center of like Paradigm City, the one where like all the rich fucks are. And the ball is hosted by Schwarzweld himself, you know, in a fucking jester outfit.
Right.
Like if you want to like somehow, I guess, attach some more like Batman parallels to these characters, if you want, I guess you could say Schwarzwald is clearly meant to be the Joker to Roger's Bruce Wayne.
I didn't want to make a Joker analogy, but it's hard when he's dressed up as a jester here, and he's clearly insane, and he wants to create order with chaos.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like he is like inciting chaos, but a lot of that chaos is more about just like revealing what he feels is the truth.
Yeah,
because he clearly discovered something when he was Michael Sibak, and like that thing he discovered, whatever it was enough to drive him insane.
Yeah.
That's like, if it wasn't for the fact that we know, I would have bet money on the fact that, oh, there is some eldritch god shit at the center of this universe.
I would have.
Like, that's what I would have bet my money on, but it's something else.
It is something else, yeah.
But regardless, the entire party is like quite the setup because if there's one thing that Schwarzwald definitely does not like in his pursuit of revealing the truth, is how much that like the people, especially the rich people, the scumbags of this city, are so intent on like withholding the truth from everyone and just indulging in like their own like personal pleasures, that all these fuckheads, while wearing the masks that they were given as part of the masquerade, things take a turn for the crazy after Roger hands Schwarzwald his severance check. Schwarzwald burns it because he doesn't need the money, and then like basically as soon as the check burns up, other things get set on fire, namely everyone's masks, which they all start screaming in horrific pain, some of them even tossing themselves out the fucking windows.
And nothing of value was lost. Anyways.
Yes. Well, yeah, they absolutely deserved it.
They did.
Like, God, like, they really showed those rich people, like, as absolutely disgusting human beings, like, just pigging out on expensive food and just laughing about shit that clearly, like, you could tell that they are, like, talking about something that is extremely sociopathic and they think is entertaining. Like, like everything that makes you hate rich people makes this scene super cathartic, if not still a little bit terrifying.
A little bit terrifying still, because they're...
Yeah, because we're still dealing with Schwarzwald.
Yeah.
He's still off his fucking rocker.
Yeah, he's still a little insane.
So much so that he leaps out of the window, like, I think out of one of the broken windows that one of the party guests threw himself out of, that Big Duo comes flying in to catch it, showing that, yes, Big Duo's whole deal is that, yes, it can fly. In contrast to Big O and, like, its domain, you know, Big O being master of the land, Big Duo is the master of the skies. And with that, it's a really cool image of seeing it come flying down from the heavens through the dome and catching Schwarzwald as the battle between Megadeus is about to resume. That said, even though Big O cannot come in flying or anything like that, I think this episode has its best entrance in the entire season ever.
It's really good.
Roger may be supposed to be a film noir style private detective, but he like makes his entrance also jumping out of the building, or at least like I think the building gets destroyed. I forget which, because it's a fucking blur of like animation when he summons Big O. But all you need to know is that it ends with him standing, arms folded, on top of Big O's raised fist.
Bro, the fucking...
no other super robot, I think, has done this.
Just this man is, I'm going to take a modern parlance here, he is aura farming so hard, just standing on his robot's fist. Like, just look at him. Like, he's just flexing now.
He is going to give it his all to fucking stop this madman and this Megadeus.
Yeah.
Only problem, though, as the fight resumes, Roger gets a communication from Norman that is like, wait, did you just summon the Big O? I didn't even finish replacing the ammunition you used in that last fight.
Oops.
Yeah, so looks like Big Duo gets the advantage for starts. Like literally flying around, just like hitting Big O in like areas that he cannot like cover in time. Fight escalates to such an insane degree that it is like the result is Big Duo creating a massive fucking explosion that leaves a huge crater in the middle of the dome. And it's one of those moments where you especially feel it even more for Dustin, because he's here on the scene, as always, unable to do anything about it with these giant robots fighting, that he is like, he sees the explosion happen and the crater it forms, and it damn near kills him.
Yeah, poor Dustin.
But, like, the whole time, it's, like, because of Schwarzwald's superiority in the air and, like, being able to, like, just hover over the source of the explosion and not get hurt by it, he thinks he's won, you know? Because, like, the dust clears and you see the crater, Big O isn't in sight. Oh, wait, except the Big O is fine, because Roger puts the momentum back in his favor by making use of a particular item of his that... I mentioned during the primary mecha section, one of its tools it has, it has like giant heavyweight like anchors that are like attached to like the side skirts of the robot. Yeah, Big O may not be able to fly, but the strength of those anchors is enough. It's able to pull it up into the air by latching onto like the outer frame of the dome because of like all the glass that has been shattered in it up to this point. And it scares Schwarzwald when he sees this.
Oh, there's nothing more satisfying than seeing a villain like start to lose their shit after like they were so smug about their victory.
And the best part, like as soon as you see that expression on Schwarzwald's face, is like, you know, him still being able to fly or whatever, you'd think he could get out of the way, but he is so thrown off that it's enough time for Roger to make use of Big O's greatest asset, which is its incredible weight, as he simply lets go of the anchor and drops right on the big duo and pins it to the fucking ground and like tears its shit up so much. Schwarzwald like loses it that he straight up opens up the cockpit and abandons the robot, fearing for his life. Like, holy shit. And this is so satisfying, especially after the beating that you see the Big O take. You know, like, it even fucking like the right eye lens that on its face even got shattered during this. Like, that's how you can kind of know this, like, oh, you're ruining the Big O's face. That's how you know this shit is like taking heavy damage.
Yeah, it just feels. Yeah. This is what I mean about how I love how heavy the Big O is when it just lands on the big duo and starts pummeling it. You're like, yeah, let's go.
Oh man, it is such a good pummeling.
Yeah,
but like even after Schwarzwald gets out and basically surrenders more or less, we see a rather bizarre behavior that appears. Specifically, the big duo, it just gets up and starts moving on its own before collapsing, where the shot that you see is it clearly reaching for Alex Rosewater's office, which lets you know this fucking bastard was watching the entire fight in his backyard the whole time.
Yeah. The real villain was watching all along.
Yeah, and even a bit of a musing from Schwarzwald himself about the nature of the Megadeus and the pilots themselves, you know, the Dominus, and just, you know, asking the question of, it's like, these things are capable of moving even without us. It's like, do they need Dominus in order to move, or is like are we the ones that are actually in control of them, or do they need the Dominus so that they can control us? You know, starting to poke at some of that mystery that is clearly still in the background by this point and has not been revealed yet.
Yeah,
and because this is near the end of season 1, the episode isn't going to end with a return to the status quo. No. You know, there's still some questions that or like, well, not so much questions. There's still like a bit more that they need to, you know, prepare for their abrupt season finale, which is why we get a to be continued, as Dorothy's been running her own investigation on the side. What does she find? If you've seen it, you obviously know what it is. Yeah. But otherwise, watch the anime. Do it now.
Just watch the anime. See it for yourself. If you haven't, do it. It's a good show.
Yeah. Watch the first season, and then watch the second season, and then come to your own conclusion about it's like, okay, I see where you were going.
Yeah.
I guess.
Go with your own, like,
which, I guess it's very bold of you to make the super robot version of the Truman Show, but okay.
Like, that's not an exaggeration, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, the big surprise, the reveal, the revelation that Cartoon Network was adamant about Katayama and the creatives at Sunrise to like try to actually reveal more of as part of like the second season was the nature of the world, and like, why is it seemingly that the only piece of civilization left in humanity ever since the event is just this one city, you know, like the city of Paradigm. And like, yeah, as it turns out, it is basically a fictitious reality. It's more or less a stage.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where the method and I guess like the execution of how it is revealed is more of the issue to me than the actual concept of it.
Yeah, I feel like the execution could have done some work for some time too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's an interesting thing that I found most interesting, especially when I went back through these highlight episodes. Anytime, well, mostly for this episode 12 specifically, and how it is like the way the domes are set up and how you look at them from the inside, like with all the wire framing around it and lights attached to it or whatever, it's like it gives off the feeling of like when you're inside the dome, it does feel like you are on like a big stage of some sort. Like, yeah. Even from the beginning, ever since season 1, there have always been like kind of like phrases and like light visual metaphors to give you the impression that like what you like this world that you are in is like a show. even like the catchphrase for like Roger Smith when he gets in the big duo, and it always like reads back the text, cast in the name of God, ye not guilty. You know, he says Big O,
It's
showtime, or as he says later on, Big O, action. You know, as in what a director would say when they're going to start the recording of a scene.
yeah, like we said, this, I'll give them this. It wasn't pulled out of their ass. This was clearly something they were thinking about for a long time, and they were setting up in so many ways during the entire, like, even during the first season. Like, they knew where they wanted things to go.
The only real reason it feels like that it became as controversial as it did and how it was executed is because of the fact that it's like, because even though there was like the hopes or rumors that Cartoon Network funding the second season was also going to come with like the opportunity to then do like a third season or however many more, but because of the fact that this was a show that technically got canceled the first time,
Yeah.
I don't think Katayama, especially when given the stipulations from Cartoon Network about what season 2 had to include, I don't think he was willing to do what he probably would have wanted to, where if we had gotten the original 26 episodes from 99 to 2000 like as they originally wanted, we probably would not have gotten as much info about the nature of the world like season 2 ultimately drops on you, like flat on your fucking face.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a shame because, again, it's like, as far as a way to kind of get at like a sort of a Matrix-like situation about the reality that you're in is fake, like some of the ideas that they have behind it that run in the background are actually well thought out and pretty cool. Like, obviously I mentioned with the sort of like movie making, like show production metaphor, obviously being a part of it. But even in terms of like the nature of the event and the fact that everyone seemingly lost all their memories following that, is that like something disastrous clearly happened to reality that is like something then needed to be done in order to like fix what remained of the current reality and the current people in order to like create some manner of a functioning society so people can get going, which is where the concepts of the tomatoes come in.
Yeah.
Which, if you're wondering exactly like why that is the case, it's like the short answer of it is that it is a metaphor that has existed in classic sci-fi for a long time as like a representative for false humanity.
Right. Yeah. It's always been,
because when you also look at the history of like actual tomatoes, is that, you know, kind of in a similar way to how it's like a lot of like the fruits and vegetables and stuff that we grow these days, like a good number of them like clearly no longer resemble like what they originally were when we first found them in the wild, like all those like years or centuries ago. Tomatoes were kind of the same thing, where it is like the tomatoes that we have today are no longer like they're more synthetic and not actually like the real tomatoes that they were like derived from. But the idea is that because the original tomatoes are extinct, if we just keep working on continuing to grow these synthetic tomatoes, eventually they'll like adapt and grow into being the real thing. And that's basically what like the humans, the remnants of Paradigm City are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because this is a false reality that they have been made to inhabit that will eventually be real enough to everyone as long as they do not think about the truth.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I can definitely see why like tomatoes are such a prevalent like metaphor in some works like this then when you put it like that.
And it fits considering the film noir influences and that it's pulling a lot from many different sources throughout the 20th century. Fuck it, why not throw in a bit of like a metaphor of like classic sci-fi literature?
Yeah, why not? We're already doing a bunch of other shit.
It's just a shame that the way it had to be conveyed in a way that felt like so rushed and trying to get everything out while simultaneously leaving as many things open almost to like frustrate you to an extent is like that's the part where it gets sour.
That's it
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, like even with some of the other like changes in like how the episodes are set up for season 2 and how it focuses a lot more on the larger narrative rather than like the serialized one-off like monster of the week stories. Season 2 still got some good stuff to it. It's still worth watching. You look at it and it's like, okay, you can tell this is from 2003, which means we're in the early years of like the digital ink era for anime, so it no longer has that traditional cell look, but stylistically it's still the Big O. It still looks the part.
Still is. It's still Big O. It's still
and it's like, fuck it. While we're like wrapping this up, you want to know what my for real favorite moment of season 2 is that kind of, I think in my eyes, still makes watching that season worth it?
What's that?
It is near the end, surprisingly, and it is at the end of the character arc for one of season 2's antagonists, Alan Gabriel.
Yeah.
It's when the big duo, the remnants of it are rebuilt and is fighting the Big O again. And Alan Gabriel's presumably its new pilot before Schwarzwald, who has been dead at this point, has apparently his ghost is still inhabited the big duo. And you see what happens when a Megadeus decides to reject its pilot and thinks you are not worthy of piloting it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is such an amazing moment as you see like that particular season 2 character, who's voiced by Crispin Freeman, by the way, and I think is like, what the character he plays is way more of a candidate for being like the Joker than Schwarzwald actually is, because he's more of an insane clown.
Yeah.
But you see Alan freak out as like tentacles, like prehensile wiring from inside the big duo's cockpit, like starts strangling and smothering him, and Schwarzwald's ghost just taunts him as he goes, You possess the foolishness of both man and machine. It chooses one who controls the power of God created by man, one who is able to arrive at one truth. That's not the case with you. And then it pans down to the front panel of the cockpit, and you see 2 words. Ye guilty.
You're right. That is a fucking great moment, though.
You get to see how terrifying a Megadeus is when it decides, you know what? You are not my pilot.
Yeah.
You are going to be mummified in electrical wires and eaten from the inside of the Megadeus.
You're going to have an absolutely terrifying death.
That alone, I think, should be enough. Obviously, that's like, I think episode 24. So it's like there's still 2 episodes after that by the time he gets to like the finale that leaves you with very complicated feelings about the whole journey. But I at least guarantee you, even getting up to episode 24, when that moment happens, regardless of some of the shortcomings, season 2, I think, was still worth it for me just to get to that moment.
Yeah.
Because, holy shit, that is an image that has never left my brain and, like, reminds you that, yes, the best super robots are the ones that are able to take the time to remind you that they have terrifying power.
Yeah.
They could be horrifying when you see them doing stuff, not even just doing the normal thing that you would expect a monster of the week type of robot to do. It's just, oh no, we're not worthy of this power.
Yeah, where it's like, oh no, that makes it like whoever actually pilots it feel like way more special in a way. Like, even they're barely able to hold on to like this much like power in the first place.
Yeah. It does give you a lot more respect for both Roger and Schwarzwald as well, despite being on opposite sides of the entire conflict.
Yeah.
They were deemed worthy of piloting their respective Megadeuces. I fucking love the Big O. It is so good.
It's great. Go watch Big O. Go watch it again. We're lucky we got a show like this in the first place.
Absolutely. And also, I guess one last thing that is worth mentioning, even though it is like, it won't really, it'll obviously be like several weeks after the fact once this episode goes live, but I should mention that the day that we recorded this is on November 22nd, the week that the first DLC for Super Robot Wars Y released. The DLC that also had the Big O in it, which means that we are now at a point in the Super Robot Wars series where internationally, we're like, the Big O is now playable in one of the English released games.
Let's go.
I swear this was not a coincidence. This was a happy accident that we talked about it this week.
It just happened to be that way. It's like we planned this, but we didn't. But it's a nice coincidence in the end.
Yeah. Things worked out well. This was great. Thanks as always, Nev, for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking about what are the top 10 super robots of all time.
Hell yeah.
And thanks everyone at home for sticking around this far. Still got a few episodes left to go before the end is in sight. But tune in next time when we switch gears to a real robot. And it basically shows what happens when the Cold War goes on for a bit too long. See you, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Never felt the love is so right. The world seems such an empty place. We need someone we could give our all. it's you. We'll be together now and